obtained may be used for that purpose. Please be advised that all calls may be recorded for quality and training purposes. If you know your party's extension, you may dial it now. For the company directory, press 9, or please stay on the line for immediate assistance. Please use your telephone keypad to enter the first 2 or more letters of the person's last name. Trevor Ash, extension 138. To complete your call to this person, press 1. To hear the next name, press 2.
This is Trevor.
Trevor, this is Seward Lasham.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
I'm not going to make these deadlines. I feel like I'm 22 years old back in college cramming for a test. Maybe you can understand that. From what I can see, you haven't had to do a thing since we've had the phone call with the judge. All you did was regurgitate this 3-year-old lawsuit, and here I'm scrambling. My house is a mess. I've got paperwork everywhere. I'm trying to meet these deadlines and I don't have a clue. This is like the worst term paper I've ever tried to do, or the worst cramming. Now, how about giving me an option and a little latitude and a little forgiveness here on what I'm going through? This isn't right. Okay?
Well, what is it that you're asking for?
What I'm asking for is I want to settle this. I don't want to go to court. About the only thing I'm going to be able to make out is I've got a whole bunch. How do you want me to send you all this? And to think that I have to make 4 copies of everything that I'm going to submit. I've got an old Kodak printer. I got an old computer. I'm half blind with a cataract. I'm 75 years old. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. I shouldn't have to put up with this bullshit that I'm going through. And thank you for listening. This isn't, I'm not trying I'm trying to extend an olive branch here.
Okay, and I appreciate that. And I guess what I would ask you is what you're proposing as far as the settlement, because if there's something specific that you want to propose, I'm happy to take that to the association. I don't get to make the ultimate decision as to whether or not to accept the settlement offer. But as you know, much of this lawsuit is simply designed to get you to take down the things that you've done to your backyard, specifically that gravel hill that you made.
That gravel, all right. If you would listen, okay, give me the benefit here. I've given the HOA probably in the last 19 years near $35,000 in dues on 3 houses. Okay? I've never used their facilities. I don't take a shower there. I don't use it. The reason I never used your facility is I was working at the airport for US Air at the time. I was working graveyard and I didn't have weekends off. So I've never been to one of their parties. I've never worked out there. They don't have, if they have the login, how many times I've entered or used my key card to get in the place, I've hardly ever used it. The only reason I used my key card was to go to meetings. Okay? And I'm going to try to be level here and not criticize. It's hard not to criticize, but what I did to my property in that corner where that dirt is was a portal to my property every time somebody hit a all up here. Now, I don't know if you go onto the satellite or if you go out here, if you were to come to visit me, everybody comes here and visits me. The first question out of their mouth is, do you ever get hit by golf balls? All the time.
I understand that, but your neighbors have the same issues, and
no, they don't. No, they don't. No, they don't.
You're the only house on the entire golf course.
Three houses. I had three houses.
We're only worried about the one because the others don't have these issues with their backyard, as far as I know.
Well, I've got a little bit of background, a little bit of education. I know what yellow journalism is. Yellow journalism or sensationalism is. The reason you put that lighthouse as the number one item was sensationalism.
No, it wasn't. It was
that lighthouse wasn't there. Trevor.
We were fined for that particular lighthouse back in 2021. And that's
it wasn't there.
The first notice that was sent to you was for the lighthouse.
And I sent you a video last week that's 10 years old that shows where the lighthouse was there 10 years ago. In 14, the lighthouse was there in the exact same place that you wrote it up. So as I was working on all these properties, you got to understand, Trevor, they sold me a house that was encumbered with bad sewer pipes. I can't get anybody in the town, the HOA, to talk to me. I can send you what I'd like to do is send you the permit and the plans for my house. They made my house. I had a surveyor, 35 years experience that's my age. He's in his 70s like me. I brought him out here because I was getting flooding. My patio was flooding, and it was flooding between my house. I had a retention basin between my house. Now listen, and okay, I had to do all this work. I had to do a whole bunch of work and spend a whole lot of money. And guess what? My house right now already has a monetary encumbrance on it because it was built 2.5 inches low, below grade. It was built 2.5 inches below the assigned grade for the finished floor elevation. And the reason they did that was to make up for track day that was filled in. Now I've got document letters from the town engineer ordering the HOA to dig out track day. And the reason they lowered my lot and my house is when they filled up track day, they didn't have any place for the water to go. And it's tribal knowledge. It's tribal knowledge on a go.
When was your house built?
It was built in 2000. I ordered it in December 7th of 2003. They broke ground in about March of 2004. I gave them $30,000 up front. Okay?
Developer, right?
I gave the developer $30,000, and he had $30,000 in his hand before they ever broke ground. And the first thing they did when they got that $30,000 is they went downtown and they altered my finished floor elevation against the note on the front of the grading plans. There's a note on the front of the grading plans that all the finished floor elevations that have been calculated for the community, all 1,100 houses, are sacred. They're written in stone. After I gave them $30,000, and this was New Year's January of 2004, about 3 weeks after I signed for, and I had a contract for lot 316, and what they did after I gave them $30,000, I had a contract where I was going to make 5 equal payments of cash, and at my last installment, I would own the house outright. When I gave them $30,000 as the first installment, the first thing they went and did was go downtown and alter my finished floor elevation. They assigned a different elevation to it than what the engineers assigned to it a few years earlier in North Scottsdale. I don't think you understand. If you bought a brand new truck from a dealer with the tow package, you paid extra to have the tow package, and you found out that a few years later, like a few years after you had the truck, that you took it into a mechanic, and that mechanic said, "Boy, they screwed you." Why? Well, you didn't get the heavy-duty alternator. You didn't get the heavy-duty fuel pump. What you did is you bought the heavy-duty tow package, and they put parts on it that weren't heavy-duty. Now, that's what I found this out 10 years afterwards. When I finally got the permit from Caroline and I had the plans, the surveyor told me, he says, if you go downtown, Freedom of Information Act, they have to give you the plans for the golf course, both the grading and the utility. And he told me, if you go get both of those plans, the grading and the utility plans, and he says that'll probably illuminate you as to what happened up here. Well, what happened up here is the middle house that or this house right here, the one we're talking about, the original house that they built for me before I bought the next two. I bought 3 houses up here next to each other, and they're about a month apart, 2 months apart. I bought the first house, and when I gave them $30,000 in good faith, thinking that they're going to build me a house that is right, and it's going to, it's going to spec out to whatever they said for the plans. It took me 10 years, Trevor, to get my hands on the permit. I had my hands on the plans about a year before I got my hands on the permit. And when I got my hands on the plans, I found out that all 3 houses on each side of Tract A are supposed to have the exact finished floor elevation. And I made some water levels. I'm an engineer. I'm a mechanic. I've done it all. I made water levels, and I compared my 2 houses, and they showed up on the water levels as being 3 inches off, that this house was built 3 inches lower than my other house, and they are supposed to be the same elevation. So I knew there was something off for a year. For a year, I knew that those houses, even though on paper, on the grading maps, they're supposed to be equal, they're not. My original house they built, they sunk it, okay? And it showed up with my water levels, they sunk it around 3 inches. Because there's a 3-inch difference on 2 houses that are supposed to be the exact same elevation, and they're not. Now, I went in, when I found out what they did to my lot, and that the lot wasn't draining, and the engineer or the surveyor told me, they've made you it. The surveyor took one look at the situation. He looked at me straight in the eyes and he says, they made you it. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, they made you the drain up here. I can see it. Right here where you tell me the puddle starts and where it ends and where it floods your patio, I'm standing here, he says, I can see what they did. Everything is uphill from here. Now I know that all lots on a golf course are supposed to drain onto the golf course. And they don't. what they did is tribal knowledge up here. They made all the lots above the golf course their own individual drains. They first of all, they lowered, and my property line on the original plans, the property line now is 3 feet higher than what it's called out on the plans. So for you or any court or for the HOA says to restore your lot back to what it was when you started, I can't do it because the original plans got violated, the property line 3 feet high. They lowered my house 2.5 inches. When I finally got the permit from Caroline, I went in to get gutters from Caroline. First time I ever met her. And Caroline, they didn't tell her about me. Nobody told her he's the boogeyman. He's the bad guy over there. He's trying to change that whole neighborhood. All the social engineering that we did in 2003 to plug up Tract A and to give it forever and ever to the 2 houses on each side, and to take the cart path out of service, the emergency easement out of service, emergency vehicles, they took it all out of service. And what they did is they transferred all that responsibility to me. And I didn't know it. And I was dealing with a local merchant, and I made the mistake, or I told her one day, I said, gee, the last storm we had, my corner of my patio went underwater, and I've got this landlocked lake that I can't get off my property. And the girl says, you better look into that. We're from Buckeye. We grew up here. We have monsoons. We have terrible storms. You better look into that and get it fixed, because they're not supposed to be storing water on your property. That's when I went and hired an surveyor, and the surveyor had 35 years experience. He was my age. I've got 30 years experience fixing wide body airplanes. I've got a federal license. I know engineering. And when he told me, and after I got the permit, I could see not only did they raise my property line 3 feet from what it's called out for on the print, on the grading map, they lowered my house. They made me it. I was draining all the water that came off all the roofs up here stayed on my lot. They made my lot the lowest elevation in all of parcel 12. I went to the councilman, Craig Eustis, and I says, I think I got a problem over on my property. And I think I have a problem with Tract A, because it says on all the plat maps that Tract A is supposed to drain, and it doesn't drain. They put a tree in the middle of the drain on Tract A, 19 inches above the sidewalk, only 29 feet away. 55 feet away from that sidewalk was my house, and it was only 9 inches above the sidewalk. They plugged up Tract A so bad that it wasn't draining. And all the water, if that drain, that 24-inch drain that goes to the lake, if that drain for any reason overwhelmed, plugged up, or backed up, everything was going to go through my house. I'm an adult. I had to go buy FEMA insurance. I bought FEMA insurance at about $400 a year for 2 years, over and above my homeowner's insurance, because my homeowner's insurance for State Farm, that the agent told me, he says, you don't have flood insurance. You don't need it. You're in a blueprinted neighborhood. If you're in the blueprinted neighborhood and everything is built right, you're never going to flood. But he wrote the insurance policy, and he was out of it then. He says, here, from now on, you call this 1-800 number. Don't even come to me with any problems with flooding. Call 1-800. So I paid the $400, and The next year when it came time to renew the insurance, FEMA wanted to know from me, why are you buying flood insurance when you have everything in your neighborhood, if it's built right, you're never going to be in a flood zone. Well, it wasn't built right. I had a letter from the town engineer to the HOA ordering the HOA to dig out tract A. He identified it. He says the tract has been filled in. We have pictures of the original tract that wasn't filled in. You filled it in. It doesn't drain. If it's ever needed, if this drainage tract is ever needed, it won't be there. And it's going to endanger the houses in the area. I had that letter. That letter was sent to the HOA, and the HOA did nothing for over a year. They did nothing. I wrote letters. I had telephone calls. I did everything to try to find out, when are you going to start digging this out? And the decision was made, we're never going to dig it out. That's going to be that way forever. So that's when I started digging. I've sent videos. I've got 2 videos where I brought in tractors, jackhammers and everything else to where I could make my house drain. I got rid of the berm in front of my house, but I can't get rid of, I'm being right on point. I'm only 40 yards. That corner where the dirt is that you're complaining about is only 40 yards from a tee box that's just offline. I'm downrange and in range of one of the most dangerous tee boxes for me, because I'm the first lot. I'm right out there on the point. I've got tubs of golf balls in my garage filled with golf balls. Of golf balls that have come in on my property, and those are the ones where the people were honest and didn't walk on my property. That corner where that dirt is that you took a picture of, and you took the pictures at different times. That picture of the lighthouse was taken in early 21. And in January of 24, 3 years later, you put on a statement that it was still there and I hadn't taken it down, and that's why I was being fined. You made the statement that that lighthouse was still on the property line. That lighthouse came down 2 years before. I made a video and put it online where I went on to the county website and I put the date in. And I showed that on 10/22, when the picture was taken, that lighthouse wasn't there anymore. It had been taken down. But in January of 24, you said the lighthouse is on the yard. It's not. It was never there. And you started out your lawsuit with a lighthouse that was never there. And then you said, I haven't paid the fines. I spent 2 days getting with my credit union to get all these canceled checks. And when you tell me to go back 3 years to look up canceled checks, that don't happen with a credit union. I just tried it. I went back. You can only go back with your credit union about 2 years or a year and a half to pull up canceled checks. Okay? I can't get back far enough. I went through a lot of trouble to get all these canceled checks. And for you, in the beginning of the lawsuit 3 months ago in January, to say that the lighthouse is still there and the fines haven't been paid on all the letters, and then for you to say he was told about the lighthouse in a May 10th letter or May 20th letter, there was nothing mentioned in any of these letters about a lighthouse. And the reason I didn't respond is because that lighthouse had been there 10 years. So what's the problem? If it's been there 10 years and it's never been written up, all right, I don't know what they're talking about when they say you're doing something in your yard until you do get permission. What I was doing in my yard, and the town engineer with one of the board members Ed Kelly and the town engineer and another town engineer, shortly after the surveyor was here, I had them meet me out here. And Woody Scout and the town engineer who generated the write-up, he generated the decertification letter for Tract A. He stood right where where the surveyor stood, and he looked and he says, I can see where the water is staying on your yard. I can see where it can't get off your yard. He says, I can see the ring around the tub. The last storm we had, that this water that's here between these two houses and off your patio is landlocked. And it isn't supposed to be that way. It's supposed to run onto the golf course. And I said, well, what are my options? And he said, I'm giving you permission right now in front of Ed Kelly to do what you have to do to get the water off your property. This isn't right. Every one of these lots are supposed to drain onto the golf course. But like I said, when they plugged up Tract A, and until you come out and see it, and until you come out and sit on the corner and watch a couple of groups tee off from that tee box, and I've also sent video of people hitting balls in my yard. I got videos of people walking in my yard and hitting balls in my yard. It's been going on for 19 years. I've had thousands of golf balls in my yard. I've had thousands of people walking in my yard after their golf ball. This is the lowest class of golf that you're going to find in the country. I've played city courses. I've played city courses in San Francisco. I played city courses in Boston. I played city courses all over the country, urban courses. You know what they do at city courses? They put up netting. They put up fencing. Whatever there's a problem, and I've had it, I've got a chronic problem. It's day in, day out. I can't sit out there or trust anybody to sit out there without telling them you have to keep your eye on the tee box. A ball can come up here at any time. I've had 3 windows broken in this house from golf balls. And when I talk to Andy or anybody at the clubhouse, this mantra, this stupid, adolescent, ignorant golf excuse that they have out here in Buckeye is, you bought a house on a golf course. It was an accident. It wasn't intentional. The guy did it it was an accident. He didn't mean to break your window. Well, he did it on the 4th ball. I watched him hit 3 balls, 2 in the lake, and then another one out of bounds, and on the 4th ball, he broke one of my windows. Now, you're going to tell me this is an accident? I was told, Trevor, on the day, are you still there? Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Well,
Yeah.
I want to explain, last week we hung up. It sounded like I hung up on you last week. I didn't. My phone went dead. My phone went dead during the call, and that's why I'm calling you on my other phone right now, so it can't go dead, and this won't happen. But last week, when we talked, that's what happened. The phone went dead. I thought you were still there. I went on talking like I was. But, Trevor, I don't know how old you are, what kind of background you are, or anything like that, but I've been playing golf for 60 years. I was in the Marine Corps during Vietnam. All right? I got out of the Marine Corps in May of 72, and nobody was saying thank you for your service. All right? I didn't dare wear my uniform out in public without having to get in a fight. Okay? I've been through all this shit. I've had a career. I've worked on airplanes. I'm a licensed airplane mechanic. I have an FCC license. I have a credit rating that's been up around 800 for about the last 15 years. I've got, my house is piles of paper. And to think that I have to, with an old printer, come up with 4 copies of everything to go into court. And I'm going to have a judge tell me that we can't listen to anything before or after. The only thing we can talk about is what's on this lawsuit. Well, what's on this lawsuit? First of all, the first couple of exhibits are untrue. When he brought the lawsuit in January of 24, 3 months ago, that lighthouse had been taken down over 2 years and moved to where it couldn't be seen from the golf course. All right, all the dues, all the fines that you said in this thing 3 months ago, that going back 3 years I didn't pay any of the fines, it's right there in your statement. He got fined, he didn't pay the fine. This is current. This is real time. You said that 3 months ago in the lawsuit. I've got canceled checks now, and it's labor intensive, and for me to take every one of these bills and checks and shows that as soon as I got the invoice, I paid the fine. As soon as I got the invoice, I paid the fine. There were no fines outstanding. Those first 2 or 3 exhibits for the lighthouse and the letters and the fine are false. It's false.
Hey, Mr. Lisham, we've been going for 30 minutes here. You called, you said you wanted to talk about the
I'm trying to see.
and we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, we are, because you're getting the background of why I have that dirt pile there, and I'm going to tell the judge the same way. You refuse, you and the golf course refuse to admit that my house was built wrong. The last thing that the HOA, every time I send a letter to the HOA about my house being built wrong, how can you worry about my cosmetics of my yard? How can you worry about the cosmetics of my yard when I've been sending you in dues payments of over $35,000 in the last 19 years? And for the last 7 years, I've been kicked out of the HOA, and I've still been making dues payments. My key card's been canceled. I haven't been able to do any business with the HOA for the last 7 years. And now you want me to pay fines, you want me to pay court fees, you want me to pay all these legal fees. I've already paid. I have an encumbrance. I have a monetary encumbrance on my house.
Okay.
My house is permanently built wrong. My house.
Can I talk?
Yes, go ahead.
If I can't
Sure.
talk, I'm going to hang up.
Sure.
Okay. So, are you willing to make the necessary changes to your backyard or not?
Well,
Because if you're not, there is no settlement.
Well, it doesn't make sense to make the changes there if they're not going to change the tee box. Until somebody, an adult, a real professional, somebody who deals with amateur golf, running a golf concession, not teaching kids how to hit a driver 300 yards. I'm talking about a golf professional that he sees, like I've seen in other places. Like I said, I played all over San Francisco, in the East Bay in San Francisco. I played all over Seattle. I used to live there. I played all over Reno. When you play on a real golf course, when you have situations like this that are hot spots, my house, my yard is a hot spot. Why? Because it's had thousands of golf balls go in the yard. It's had several windows broken, and I'm constantly dealing with trespass with young kids.
So let's do this.
Until they move that tee box, and until somebody comes to the realization that, yeah, we're putting balls in his yard every day, and we know it. This is proxy assault. What's so beautiful about it is it's totally random. They got a window breaker, a random window breaker with those golf tees 40 yards from my property and uprange from me, and it's random generator. The beauty of it is the golf shop doesn't know when they're going to break a window. I don't know when they're going to break a window, but they do know that windows will get broken. He's going to be chronically burdened with golfers in his yard, golf balls in his yard. He's going to be chronically burdened forever unless we move that tee box. Now, I've made a lot of videos in the last couple of weeks, and every one of those videos, I'm getting a lot of response, and some people are sending me back and they're giving me thumbs up. We understand. We understand. We live on a golf course. This isn't golf. This isn't golf. This is Buckeye. Buckeye is outside the 12-mile limit for anything that has to do. When I found out that they plugged up track day, and I got that letter from Woody Skelton, I went to Maricopa County flood control website, and I called up a young man in Maricopa County flood control, and he went on the satellite with me. We looked down at track day. It was filled with plants. It was filled with, and it wasn't an easement. And the guy in Maricopa County flood control told me, he says, you're absolutely right. The letter is right. You're right. The surveyor's right. They plugged it up. It's out of compliance. It doesn't meet what it's supposed to be. Every underground drain is supposed to have a top water, open water channel that runs parallel with the underground drain. And he told me, he says, it's out of compliance. I agree with you. You're right. It's out of compliance. And I was tickled. I finally got somebody outside of Buckeye and outside the HOA and outside of the golf course to admit, yeah, they screwed it up. And I had a letter. I had a letter from the head engineer in Buckeye that ordered HOA to dig it out and make it so it was a drain again and access, and they did nothing for a year. For a year and a half, they did nothing. I walked it. I had a little civil disobedience. I've got a lot of East Coast blood in me. We believe in civil disobedience. We believe that dissent's the purest form of patriotism. And as a Vietnam veteran, a Vietnam era veteran, our mantra, we weren't running around saying Semper Fi and waving the flag. We weren't waving the flag. We got sucked into a war that everybody made money but us. And I know that. That war, the Vietnam War, was to make Wall Street run. And all the people who had money in Wall Street were making money hand over fist. Okay? And I wasn't. I didn't make any money the whole time I was in. And when I got out, I wasn't waving the flag and going Semper Fi. Okay? And I went back to college. I got a college education, 3 years of college. And then I worked on airplanes for 30 years after that when my experience from being in the Marines. But right now, you're thanking me for my service by selling me a house that was wrong. When they found out that I was from California, when they found out that I was from California and a California investor, they said, he's not one of us. And I found out later that there were local people probably on the board, who had bids on these lots. But they weren't going to pay the price that Meritage wanted. All the lots out here in phase one, where if you were on the golf course, were $15,000. If you bought a lot on the course, the lot was $15,000, you built a house. When it was time for me to buy a house, they raised all the lot prices to $25 up here above the lake. And everybody put in a bid for like $15. Here, we'll offer you $15. When you can't sell them, come and get us and we'll buy them. Well, I came in, I took one look and I bought 3 of them. I've been hated ever since. I can't, every time I apply for anything with the HOA, it's turned down. I applied to put video cameras on my house, turned down. I applied to put a brand new air conditioning system on my house, turned down. All right, we're not going to work with you. You whistle blew Tract A. We had to change Tract A because of you. We had to dig it out because of you. You're the bad guy. And the thing of it is, when I went into Caroline, the first time I ever met Caroline, she had just taken up and replaced another manager. And nobody told her that Mr. Lasham, if this guy comes in Lasham, don't work with him. He's a gadfly, he's a carpetbagger, he's a shit stirrer, he's a whistleblower. Don't have anything to do with me. Well, she did. She didn't know. They didn't tell her about me, and she was so courteous to me. She gave me everything, and you know what she gave me? She gave me the permit for my house, the signed, stamped, Buckeye stamped building permit for my house. And when I saw it, I saw what they did. They changed the number for my finished floor elevation. They lowered it 2.5 inches. Now, if you were to buy my house, do you think that you'd want me to tell you that your sewer pipe, when I pay my sewer bill to Buckeye, I'm getting screwed? This isn't something that I can fix on my own. This is a utility that I pay every month, a check to the city of Buckeye for my sewer. And the city of Buckeye 20 years ago did a flim-flam. They lowered my house. They made my lot the retention basin up here. I was getting a lake on my patio every time it rained. And when I finally found out what they did, and I whistle blew, it took them 1.5 years to dig it out. And they didn't dig it out until I got arrested. I went downtown,
Mr.
I went...
Lachon, let me talk. I have an appointment coming up. You called, you said you wanted to talk about settlement.
I do, but it isn't going to do any good.
Tell me what it is that you want me to bring to the association as a settlement offer.
Tell them to take...
I'll bring it to them. Tell me what it is.
Well, first of all, I will get rid of that. But what, all those sandbags and stuff, I was a Marine. I never made it to Vietnam. I'm a little frustrated that I never made it there. I have survivor's guilt like crazy. I got out of the Marine Corps during Vietnam. I didn't get a scratch or a bullet fly over my head. All right? And I never had to build a bunker. But when I saw this isn't going to stop, I've sent videos to the pro shop. I've talked to the HOA. We have to get that tee box away from my house. Not only my house, but everybody's house up here. It isn't right. If you're going to run a golf concession, then you figure out where to put the tee boxes where you're not going to harass me day in and day out with golf balls in my yard. And the first time I got arrested was walking on that easement. I had a plat map in my hand that says you can walk here. So I started walking it. And
right, let's do this. How about if you have a settlement agreement, email it to me. Tell me
my only settlement agreement is I wanted to finish this yard 2 years ago. The reason the yard isn't finished now, and the reason those are there, I don't see why I can't have a sitting area on my property line when the golf course out of bounds are right up to my property line. The golf course puts their out of bounds markers on my property line, right on it. And that tells everybody until you put a foul ball in his yard, you're not going to lose a shot. You can get back here and you can grip and rip, and you're not going to lose a shot until you put one in that guy's yard. He's foul ball territory. We don't have any foul ball territory on our golf course. We use the members for foul ball territory. And all the members, and when I put these videos on, a lot of the people that are giving me thumbs up and likes are probably people that live on the golf course and put up with this day in and day out. This is arena golf out here. This isn't a real golf course. If you ever played golf, I don't know if you know anything about golf or played it. I played it for 60 years, all over the country, East Coast, West Coast, Southwest, Northwest, San Francisco, even around LA. They set courses up different. This course was set up 19 years ago, and we're not going to spend another dime on it. And the HOA, the purpose of all the board members on the HOA is status quo. Status quo. And the people who complain about that, it isn't the HOA complaining about that dirt pile. It isn't the HOA or anybody like that. It was the women's club. The women's golf club. The day I sit out there for the first time, every woman took her camera out, her phone, and took a picture. And they wanted to know, what are you doing up there? We've had this tee box all to ourselves for like 17 or 18 years, where we can talk, we can have conversations, nobody overhears us, nobody eavesdrops on us, and now this guy is sitting right on his property line and we don't like it. And I have a right to do that. I own this property, or I thought I did. I thought I owned this property, and I took pride. When I found out that the lot didn't drain, and Woody Skelton gave me permission to do anything I could to make it drain, I spent thousands of dollars on equipment, material, putting pipes, putting gutters, because I knew they screwed up my lot. They screwed it up on purpose. That's tribal knowledge for golf courses. We don't want any water running onto our course. Even though it was designed that way 50 miles from here, 25 years ago, the course was designed to drain. Every house was designed to drain onto the course. We're going to fix that. And the first thing they did, like I said, is they added 3 feet elevation to my property line. And then they lowered my house, and then between my property line and my house, they built a berm. It's all there in the videos. Nobody will watch the videos. Other people are watching it. But I'd like to do exactly what you said, but I'll get those sandbags out of it. That's 3 times I've had to work the lot. I worked the lot about 7 years ago and got everything the way I wanted it, and then I started getting these massive leaks. So I had to dig everything up and start all over again with the leaks. And I got those fixed, and I was all ready to finish the lot 2 years ago when they started this $100 a day fine. It came out of nowhere. No letter to warn me of a 100-day fine. No hearing. Nobody ever called me up and said, we have a problem with your lot. There wasn't a letter. I didn't get it.
All attached to my exhibits. I gave
Yeah, every one of those letters were sent for 52 cents. This is a...
You sent them back. They don't have... Okay.
Well, I sent them back because they started getting 100. I didn't start sending them back until I got that $100 a day fine. When that $100 a day, and I've told you before,
So you did get notice of it.
Yeah, I got notice when the invoice got here. When I got the invoice in December and it says $4,500, I didn't have nothing up to that point. Nothing came in. And the thing of it is like, Trevor, you're supposed to know a legal document. Every one of those letters in your Exhibit C, every letter in that Exhibit C was sent to me for 52 cents.
Yeah, they don't have to send them certified mail. There's no law that says they have to do that.
Well, then how can you say that I got it? You should, if you're going to put $100 a day...
Envelope, return to sender.
No. You understand, we've got common area mailbox over here. I'm always getting letters in my mailbox addressed to somebody else. I throw them back in the slot. I had to replace a license once about 6-7 years ago, and it went to my neighbor next door. Everything was right on it. The address was right, the name was right, everything was right. It went to him. It happens over here. You have replacement mailmen. They open up all these mailboxes, they've got all these pigeonholes, and they start throwing. So you can't guarantee me that I got that letter until you know with a signed receipt that I signed a receipt that I got that letter. I think it's unfair to start charging me $100 a day when you don't even know if I got the letter. You have no clue. You don't have a receipt. All right? This is where the law has to change in Arizona. Somebody has to start saying you have to send out registered mail. Anytime you fine somebody, anytime you threaten them with a fine, anytime you send them a letter threatening them with a fine, that's a standalone legal document. And you shouldn't take for granted that it got delivered because you put a 52-cent stamp on it. All right? Now, I've been going along with this and I know better. I know better. You've put that $100 fine on me. I never got the letter. I was totally shocked by it. And the thing of it is, the invoice that came in September, that invoice had nothing on it. All it had was $285. And that was a straight dues payment. After months and months and months of paying fines and paying them all the time, I bet you I paid over $3,000 or $4,000 in fines since I've been here. 200 here, 150 there. So I'd pay them, right, just to get them off my back. And the last invoice that I got in September, there was nothing on it. I couldn't believe it. It was like a clean report card. It's like a clean report card, just a straight 285, nothing on it, nothing on the invoice that would indicate that on October 1st, we're going to start charging you $100 a day. And in December, I get my thing, I get my invoice, and it's got $4,500 bill. And guess what? 2 weeks later, there was an invitation to a volunteer or nominate myself as a candidate for the HOA board. I've run for the board twice. A year before that, I ran for the board with a statement that tract day is out of compliance. If I ever get elected, the first thing I'm going to do is put tract day back into compliance. And they didn't want me running in 2023, so they started this fine. They started this fine so that when that letter was sent out, I was going to have a $4,500 fine on my account. That I never got a warning. There was nothing on the September bill that would warn me that on October 1st, we're going to start fining you $100 a day. Nothing. I should have had a registered letter saying, yeah, now that we have a receipt, that he knows we're going to start fining him. We have a return receipt that we know he got the letter. I didn't get it. And that's why I started sending back those letters. And I've sent you letters. I sent you letters last week or a couple days ago that I sent to Caroline. When she started sending these letters, I sent out a letter to her saying, since you've kicked me out of the HOA and I can't have anything to do with the HOA, I mean, you ought to give me a little leniency. I've been paying on 2 houses for the last 7 years dues, and my key card was canceled. How do you explain that? How do you justify that? How do you justify that I've given you $12,000